We are here to mark a very important development in New Bedford's continuing effort to progress from a dirty industrial past into a clean, competitive future. One of the big challenges we have as a city in increasing our competitiveness in a global economy and growing jobs and enhancing the vibrancy of our neighborhoods is that we have an industrial past that is still with us, not just in the mills you see in places across the city, which are real assets in themselves, but many of the brownfield sites that inhibit development. And you often hear the word brownfield used in many contexts, but it generally refers to a plot of land that was once the site of a business. In the case of many of the ones in this city, it's the site of very large businesses that housed the textile or the apparel or other manufacturing industries, including right here in the lower north end. We're here at the site of really two different major manufacturers in the city. One-time major manufacturers, Elco Dress, which, as the name implies, made dresses, and Payne Cutlery. Two employers that really helped build this neighborhood and made it vibrant long ago. But as those businesses, like so many other ones, have moved on in our city, they've left behind a toxic mess. And these are not the only sites. This is not the only site in the city where that's true. The problem is that given the very appropriate policy at both the federal and the state level, that we clean up what we leave behind, that which is dirty, I mean, we sometimes have the difficulty of finding the money to do that. So this site's a classic example where the employers who contaminated the site no longer exist, and so it's really left to the public to find the money to convert these places back into something that's reusable. And just think of, if you're an employer, if you're another company, say a manufacturer that wants to come here and set up shop. Well, before you set up shop, you've got to spend X number of millions of dollars even before you get to build your factory. And with alternatives in other places, in green fields and in less densely populated areas, it becomes a very difficult proposition for cities to attract employers. We've had recent discussions around the proposed site for a casino at the N-Star plant, where we've been told that it would cost about $50 million just to clean up, to put back into active use. So brownfields are really a problem for cities, especially in the Northeast, that have long histories of industrialism well before the rules that came into play, and especially in the 1970s, that required sites to be cleaned up. So in steps, and has stepped, the federal government and the state government in an area where cities really need help. And it's through the EPA's Brownfield program, as well as the state's Brownfield program, both of which you'll hear about in a moment, that enables cities to really put these things back into good use. It's in the public interest that we have cities like New Bedford have sites that can be reused and resold to developers, so that we can grow the jobs we want, so that we can return neighborhoods to their former vibrancy. And this is a great example right here. So New Bedford over the years has benefited greatly from these programs, and the EPA program in particular. We've been able to reconvert many sites in the city and back into use, not always industrial use, but into other more modern uses. These include the Rivers End Park in the North End, which had been the site of what's the name? Reliable Trust Company, a manufacturer in the city. as well as the Riverside landing area, which is now mostly retail, which had been the site of their Fairhaven mills and some other mills along the way. I want to acknowledge the presence of former Mayor Fred Kalitz, who is not just a big proponent here in the city during his time as mayor for brownfield conversion, but really a national leader who really spoke out about the need for the federal government to remain in the business of cleaning up brownfield sites, because of the reality that cities didn't have the wherewithal to attract employers to those sites without some federal and state assistance. And so, Fred, we appreciate your being here today. We have, we are lucky that we're ably assisted in that way by our Congressman Bill Keating, who's a big proponent of funding brownfield programs, as well as by our state legislative delegation, particularly Tony Cabral, which is who have advanced our interest in getting funding to these programs. Congressman Keating at the federal level for sure supported EPA's brownfield program since he got into Congress, and he understands very well the need for cities to be able to put their neighborhoods, to reactivate their neighborhoods by bringing employers back in and giving them the tools to clean up sites and convert them. And similarly on the state side, you'll hear in a moment in a few minutes from Carrie Bowie, who's the assistant commissioner, who's the brownfields director for the state, the new brownfield director for the state, about the state program as well. And I just want to say that we in New Bedford have been dealt a somewhat difficult hand when it comes to environmental complications. It ranges from brownfield sites like this one to the NSTAR site to the Parker Street waste site, as well as many others along the way. We've been digging out, literally and figuratively digging ourselves out of a hole, but we've been making lots of progress, and that progress is a testament not only to the hard work that we do in the city and our commitment to get things done, and today's announcement will be about how we're all getting things done for New Bedford, but also a close collaboration with the Environmental Protection Agency and its regional director, Kurt Spalding, whom you'll hear from in a minute with a big announcement. I know this is a big lead up. I want to make sure everybody, all right, I get it. This is for cable TV. Don't forget, people are watching at home with cable TV, they want a little bit of context, so that's what I'm offering right now. But we do, I've said to Kurt so many times before that EPA could readily justify having a field office right here in the city of New Bedford, given all the, not just the brownfield work, but the work on South Coast Rail and the harbor cleanup, of course, as well as the South Terminal project and so many, and all the renewable energy work that we've been doing in the city, where we've really stood out undeniably as a national leader. So we have a big announcement today. Kurt's going to make a big announcement about the next big step here, which we're very proud of, and that'll enable us to really do some great work in reactivating this neighborhood as well as many others around the city. But before Kurt comes up, I want to again call up Congressman Keating, who, as I said, has been a big supporter of the EPA's brownfield initiatives at a time when Congress really is trying to cut back on everything that the federal government does in cities. And so we're lucky to have Congressman Keating going to bat for us, and just ask Bill to come up and say a few words.
I love this city. I look at celebrating the past and moving forward to the future. We'll be doing that this weekend with cultural celebrations in the city. We do it with our port. We also understand too that part of that past, that economic past, was one where there wasn't rules, there wasn't regulations and laws the way there are now. And it's important to remember that as those laws are under attack right now, every day in Congress, that the results of repealing those laws and weakening those laws will be passing the cost, as we're here today understanding, to another generation of people. Because the corporate movements of later years, or past years, really are what we're here for today because they polluted in this area, knowingly, unknowingly, but the cost of that was significant, and it lived far beyond their profits. So we're here today because we can look at the Payne Cutlery neighborhood and see what's happened here and understand that the role of government is to leverage movement, leverage change, and we're doing that in so many ways. People don't view, I know Kurt does and Kerry does, I've had discussions with Kurt and the mayor, this is really economic development because you cannot get private financing for the development of these lands while they're contaminated. It just won't happen until it's cleaned up. This will leverage the money towards planning for that, setting this in motion with the ability to get that kind of private financing. And Kurt said that I can mention some of the details, so the suspense will be over. But this is $600,000 combined for New Bedford, $200,000 for the Payne Cutlery area, $400,000 for the ongoing planning in the Upper Harbor area, which again, there's short-term goals here. The short-term goals are to take these areas, real property, and transform it into economic development, to be able to leverage private financing and state financing to go forward. And it's also to look at the long-range view, because part of these will look at benefits that could be there for South Coast Rail too. That's part of the mindset behind it in the long run. It's also there in the Upper Harbor too, because of the city's planning that's there for a river walk, which will open up the whole area to commerce and connect it to one of its greatest assets, the sea. So there's a lot to be excited about here. There's a lot that's important, and it's important to note that I believe, Kurt, there were 147 of these grants, only 147 for cities and towns in the United States of America. And New Bedford got one. And that is testimony to the planning, to the foresight that the mayor and his administration has moving forward to make sure that we're leveraging these things for the future. And it's a very bright future for New Bedford. This is exactly the kind of investment that'll pay dividends to our country, to the Commonwealth, and to the city and the people who live here. So this is an exciting day. It's a day of looking forward. It's a day of celebrating the ongoing efforts of this city, which will become, again, one of the greatest cities in the country. So, Kurt, Kerry.
Thank you, Congressman Keating. So as Mayor Mitchell said, my name is Kerry Bowie. I'm the Director of Brownfields and Environmental Justice for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I really just want to do two things. First, I want to congratulate the city of New Bedford, Mayor Mitchell, as well as Michelle Paul, Ray Holberger, and all the others who have done the work to put in the proposal and to secure these funds. Second, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Congressman Keating, to Representative Cabral, for the work that they do, both at the federal government and here at the state to promote brownfields redevelopment, and to EPA for the amazing program that they run. And there are too many EPA staffers out for me to walk through all their names, but they know who they are. Massachusetts received $2.75 million in this last round. New England received $10.3 million of what I think was over $54 million. So we've done really well, but it's because of what Mayor Mitchell said. We have a lot of brownfields here because of our long industrial past. Companies were here, they left in many cases, and they left people behind. And so what we have is a lot of gateway cities like New Bedford that need assistance. And like Congressman Keating said, brownfields is really the marriage of environmental cleanup and economic development. And that's the beauty of this, is pulling together teams. It's all about collaboration. So both the municipal, the state, federal, regional partners to tackle these technical, legal, and financial issues. So, I won't get into all the details, but we're talking about petroleum, we're talking about a trichloroethylene plume, asbestos, lead paint management issues. So a lot of work has been going on at these sites and even at Tabor Mill, the adjacent sites and some of the homes to make sure that we can come in and do the kind of transformative work that we want to do. And this really is an effort of planning, assessment, cleanup, and economic development, and we're really thankful to EPA for these funds so that we can make this work happen. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Kerry.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Kerry.
Kurt, I can introduce you.
All right.
So next up is our friend Kurt Spalding, who has, as I said before, Kurt has made New Bedford his home away from home in the last few years, and you know, that the growing affection you have for the city, I'm sure, played a part in getting this grant, Kurt. Let's just be honest about it. But in all seriousness, Kurt, we've worked very closely with EPA Region 1 over the last few years, and together we've made a lot of progress. And you know, this is just another occasion where I get to say thanks to Kurt Spalding for really digging in and understanding the challenges that we have here in New Bedford, and his willingness to partner with us to get things done for our city and our region. So with all that, and let me, by the way, I want to thank his entire staff, or at least some of whom are here today, a very able staff that we work with on so many other items, and our team who works directly with them all the time, Michelle Paul, our environmental steward, Ray Holberger, who's here as well from Michelle's team. It's a great working relationship. We're getting a lot of stuff done, and today is an occasion to announce one more big thing.
Yeah.
Kurt.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's great to be again in New Bedford. He makes a very good point. We love New Bedford. Love it from beginning to end. All that's gone on here. I do want to acknowledge right off the top that none of this would be happening but for our congressional delegation here in Massachusetts, and frankly all of New England. But Congressman Keating has been a tremendous leader on these things, always advocating for funding for restoring New England cities, and especially in this district. Of course, Senator Warren is here. I think, is Stephanie here? Yes, she is, from Senator Warren. It's an active, aggressive delegation that makes this story work. I also want to thank Kerry. It's been a great story in New England, how our states have stood up and put up their own brownfields money, a lot of it exceeding what we have. We're kind of the seed, but now there's flowers blooming because of what our states are doing. So I want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge the mayor's staff. I know Kristen, Michelle, Ray, as I've heard. These grants come to cities because they earn them. This is a points competition. There's nothing given to New Bedford because you're a wonderful coastal city with a lot of problems.
That should be enough.
That should be enough, but that's not enough. What has to be done is a very competitive grant has to be written. Thanks to my team, John Podursky and his team, we get out with people and we talk about what it means to win these grants, but these grants are earned. This is not an earmark, this is not FAT or any of that kind of directed funding. I'm sure the Congressman would love to do that, but he can't. They've contained the rules there. So I just want to say very clearly how much New Bedford has earned this money. I think the mayor's done a great job explaining the need. We're very proud for all that's going on here in New Bedford. Just a couple of years ago, we had a very slow cleanup going. Now we have an accelerated cleanup because of a settlement and $366 million that's being spent to clean up the harbor. A couple of years ago, we had some problems around the Parker Way site. Now that's cleaned up, a very exciting outcome. Of course, the South Street Port, that's a big deal too. There's so much moving in New Bedford over the last 4 or 5 years. It's really pretty exciting to see. This city has assets like few others do, with a great port, wonderful climate. It's just fantastic. I saw your announcement about the sailing, trying to bring the Olympics to New Bedford. I think that's a change in mindset and spirit about the future of New Bedford. So we're very proud for that. So what I'd like to do now, the last thing I want to mention, the mayor said it, we compete very well for these monies. We got 20% of the money here in Region 1. That's what we've been doing year in and year out. And that's, again, because of the leadership of our mayors across the region. Mayor Mitchell among them. And of course, you had a nice haul this year, actually. You did very well. Big portion of the $2 million to this state. So it is a pleasure today to be down here and award 2 separate grants. They've been mentioned, but let me be specific. These 2 grants total $600,000. And I want to make a point about the money. It may not be as much as $366 million, but sometimes the right money at the right time makes all the difference. And I think the Congressman alluded to it. Without this lead-in money that assess risks and defines what can be invested in and actually does some cleanup, 200,000 here will do some cleanup, you can't get to first base with private financing, actually public financing too. You can't get the next level. HUD won't finance, state won't finance, private sector won't finance unless they know their risk. So these dollars are much more valuable than their actual amount because they are free and clear. Doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we think these investments have been very successful. Millions and millions of dollars have come into New England and thousands of jobs have been created. So let me start with the first one. The first grant is a 200,000 area-wide planning grant, which will focus, I guess, on this neighborhood, right? This is the Payne Cutlery neighborhood. What is an area-wide planning grant? That is a grant that allows data to be gathered on the potential of this region, this area, and the brownfields work that needs to happen going forward. It is one of the most important innovations our program administrator for this program did, Mandy Stanislaus. He's emphasized this needs to be planned on an area basis so that the investments lead to more investments. So we're very proud to give you that. So let me start out with the, this is the $200,000 area-wide planning grant, right? And I'm going to give this to the Congressman, who can give this to the mayor, because that's appropriate. I want to make it very clear, it's Congress who appropriates these monies, not EPA.
We'll get
Where do you need us?
All right.
Around here?
You're
You guys
good.
get in
Look
front.
at you're a director, too.
Yeah.
Kurt, there's no decimal point. Can we write in a couple more zeros?
New Bedford's gotten quite a bit. Yeah. That's the first grant. We should have Stephanie up here, too.
Yeah. Get up.
Okay.
We can take a picture for you. Come on, get up here. Michael will slide in. Michael will email you that picture.
Okay.
Very good. All right, now we got more.
All right. We got a bigger one coming.
Got the bigger one. The city also will be receiving a $400,000 community-wide assessment grant. Is the first one a cleanup grant? Nope. Community-wide assessment grant. Again, this will be used to assess properties located within New Bedford's Upper Harbor District. Is that up towards the top of the Acushnet River, right?
Yes. Acushnet River.
Yep. That's very exciting. This 2-mile stretch along the Acushnet River contains multiple former current industrial properties. We know them well at EPA. And will assess potential for cleanup and redevelopment. So what this really does is it takes what's being spent on the harbor and leverages it going forward. And allows the mayor then to go talk to private money once he knows what the risks are. So this is really exciting. The city and community share a vision to redevelop this area into a river walk, providing targeted community access to the waterfront and sparking, very important, sparking investment and others to come to the city. So we are very excited to see this money given to New Bedford. And I just point out that this builds on the track record, and it's very important to know New Bedford's received over $4 million in brownfields money with this final check that I'm giving today. So congratulations, Mayor, and here we go. Here you go, Congressman.
Come on, get in, come on.
Look at it.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Good luck with this.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Nice job.
When we transition, can I just make one comment?
Yes.
And I would be remiss, I'm coming down from Boston, but the people at Mass DEP who do this work are Millie Garcia Serrano, who, she's not here, she just became our acting regional director. We've got a lot of things going on, and Gerard Martin, so I did want to acknowledge them.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to acknowledge the great work that Michelle Paul did on the grant, and Ray Holberger. Really, Kurt's right. This is a competitive process, and it's not just a matter of checking the blocks and sending it in and asking for a check. And we really do need to spell out what you'll do with the money and why you need it. And that job is left to Michelle and her team, and they did a great job making New Bedford's case, and it was based really on their command of the facts and the planning that they've done all along. So this is really something that will help accelerate their efforts in the Environmental Stewardship Office. So.